Okay, all right. Now, what we're going to talk about is, to start off with, is talk about the greater Laodicean area, okay? Because Laodicea itself, one of the, for want of a better term, suburbs of Laodicea was a place called Hierapolis, okay? All right. Another known name is Colossae, okay? Now, what I can tell you is that if you read the Ephesians to the Colossians, that the Laodiceans are mentioned in that epistle a couple of times.
Where's Ephesus? Oh, there it is.
Yeah. Ephesus. Okay.
You got a little tongue tied there. He's talking about Colossians. In Colossians,
Right.
it mentions Laodicea
Yes.
and Hierapolis.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. All right. So you guys got that? All right. Now, I took this slide because I wanted to say that this may be a God thing. I'm not certain, but one of the things that you guys have seen as we have gone through is that the state of the digs have varied dramatically from church to church. Okay.
City to city.
The digs of the cities.
Right.
Okay. All right. For example, Ephesus and Pergamon, they have been digging there for about 150 years, and it's not surrounded by a modern city. Okay. All right. Therefore, we have a tremendous amount of data from those cities. The others, depending upon, the others have been surrounded by modern cities, so our access to the area that we can dig is limited. Okay. All right. Now, Laodicea was an outlier because Laodicea was out in the middle of nowhere, so there was nobody stopping the digs, but nobody got around to digging in it until about 30 years ago. Okay. So 30 years ago, our tour guide, Mel, said this was what all of Laodicea looked like. Okay. All right. In the past 30 years, for whatever reason, the Turkish government has been ponying up the money to make the digs in this area, and there's some exceptionally valuable information that has come out of it. Now, this is our tour guide. This is, I think her name was Melton. Was it
Melton.
Melton.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody called her Mel. Now, you guys know that last week, I didn't quite say that if you don't go to Israel with Randy, you're an idiot, but it was pretty close. Okay. All right. One of the more unmentioned reasons to go with Randy is that because of his relationship with the companies that do this kind of stuff, provide these educational tours is what they call them, he gets first pick of the tour guides, okay? And according to him, Mel was the best tour guide that they had, okay? Now, when we get to Istanbul, I can tell you right now, she earned her salt that day because she shepherded us out of a potentially very dangerous situation. But she's very knowledgeable, very fun to talk to, a nice lady. Now, we are now in the suburbs of Laodicea, for want of a better term.
Suburbs of ancient Laodicea.
Correct. Okay. All right, and that white plain there is a salt spring at Hierapolis. Okay, and so what happened is that when the salt water was coming up, okay, it was super saturated, okay, and it formed these salt baths that people used for medicinal purposes. Okay, so you guys get that? It was salt water. It came out hot. And it was used for medicinal purposes. Now, I can tell you today that if you go to Israel, one of the places that you will probably visit is the southern section of the Dead Sea. Okay, now you guys all know that the Dead Sea, it collects water, the water evaporates, and then the salts and the minerals concentrate in the Dead Sea water. The southern section of the Dead Sea has become essentially a medical spa. Okay, now we don't do it over here, but over in Europe, if you have eczema or psoriasis or some other pretty nasty skin diseases, okay, the doctors will prescribe, and insurance will pay for you to go to the southern end of the Dead Sea. You will soak in the Dead Sea. You will put on mud baths, and you will go through a therapeutic regimen, okay? And people come out of this regimen often healed for life.
Do you have a prescription for this?
Okay. No, I don't speak German or French, okay? All right, I'm just telling you what they do, okay? All right, here we're tied to big pharma, so we use high potency steroids.
So do you see, and I have a.
Wait, hold that for just 1 second, okay? The point that I was gonna make was I have no doubt that the same thing was happening at Hierapolis as was happening at the Dead Sea.
So is this the same salt? Do you have any idea from a chemical standpoint, chemistry, is this similar salt than what you saw in the Dead Sea?
I love you, man. Okay, because this is the next thing that we were going to get to.
Chemistry right up his alley.
Okay, right.
Stick to the Bible now.
Now, since you asked.
Yeah. Okay, no, people, you guys don't understand. This is critical. Okay, all right. Now, when I asked Mel, or Mel just started mentioning, I don't think I even asked her. She said, well, hold that for just 1 second. Okay, what you guys think of when you talk about salt is common table salt, sodium chloride, okay?
Or sea salt.
Which is sodium chloride,
Yeah, sea salt.
okay? All right, now, in reality, common table salt is in a class of chemicals that have their own definition, but they are known as salts. Okay, so in reality, what you guys think of as a single chemical entity is in reality a representation of a large number of chemicals that are known as salts. Okay, all right, and I'm not going to bore you guys with the definition. Let's just say what makes sodium chloride stand out is that it occurs commonly in nature and it's necessary for our lives. Okay, do you guys get that? Okay, now, here is the next thing. Okay, one of the salts is a compound known as calcium chloride. Okay, when we were at Hierapolis, Mel started talking about calcium chloride, and I went, no way. Okay, and you're going to find out why I thought that when we get further on in the presentation. But as far as which salts they had here versus the Dead Sea, I don't know. What I can tell you is that it was in many cases an effective therapeutic modality for certain conditions. Okay, does that make sense? Do you guys have that? Okay, the other thing that you have to get from here is that this was hot water that came naturally out of the earth as warm. Okay, does that all make sense?
I got a question.
Yes.
So NaCl and CaCl.
Actually, it's CaCl2, but
Okay.
CaCl what?
two.
So that's the calcium chloride.
Correct.
And the NaCl is
Sodium chloride,
Okay.
which is common table salt.
okay.
Okay.
So I
Calcium.
just wanted to define that. Okay.
Sure, that's fine. Okay. Okay, and it's really a broad range of chemicals. Just concentrate on these two.
Then there's also magnesium chloride.
And potassium chloride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And using water.
So you
Okay.
could go through the whole gamut.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, there's a lot of them out there. Okay. Okay.
But there's one important thing that you didn't mention about salts.
Which is.
Without the different calcium chlorides, we would not have the color distinguished in fireworks.
Oh, how about that?
Okay.
Okay.
Leave it to the
So
Chinese.
the Chinese figured that out.
Okay.
Okay.
Only for the
moving on.
Chinese. All right.
Back to calcium chloride.
Well. All right, this is just a shot of the same area today. It's not a medical spa today, it's just a spa where people go to swim in the therapeutic waters, but I just included that in there. There you've got those old ancient columns.
Underneath
People-
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
people-
beautiful.
Yeah, people, you can't get away from this stuff.
The gift shop was like right.
Yeah. Yeah, right behind. Okay, all right, I didn't take any pictures of the gift shop.
No, okay, go to the next one. You're not showing the relationship between these two.
Well, sorry about that. I'll get
The
there.
cities. It was like, we were looking, you look across a valley. Hierapolis is
There you go.
actually on the top of one mountain.
Hierapolis, Laodicea.
Right. It would be like us here looking over at peaks of otter. And so from Laodicea, you looked over and you saw white, it looked like a ski slope, but that was the salts. And I don't know if he has pictures coming over there, up there.
Okay.
But that's, it's way up
And
there.
that's probably right there.
At the
That's
very
probably-
top.
But at the mountain, she's saying at the top of the mountain.
That's not it. It's down here, Blue.
Well, okay.
All
We,
right.
well, okay. You must
Okay,
not-
those mountains provide the water for Colossae. All right,
We had better pictures, but anyway.
well, we
I
did.
didn't see this.
I didn't
Keep-
have them,
keep-
okay. All right, now, the point getting on is that as you guys have learned by now, that, that among the cities, there was competition for the amphitheaters, okay? All right, the bigger the amphitheater you had, the better off you were, okay? Laodicea, in their immediate area, they had 3, okay? This was the first one. It was somewhere between Hierapolis and Laodicea. It was, we'll call it part of the greater Laodicea area. Now, I don't know if this was the biggest one in the Roman world, but I think it was the steepest one, and where we are right now are definitely nosebleed seats.
And circa.
Hmm? I have no idea.
Built.
You're Roman.
Okay. All right, now, this is a shot. This just shows, this was the main street coming down Ephesus, okay? And that's
Laodicea.
close, I'm sorry, Laodicea, sorry. Okay, all right, and you can see that, I mean, you can see, if you assume that all of these were marketplaces and this was an agora and people were peddling their wares as people walked through the main street, this was a pretty big hub of economic activity, okay? And remember too, okay, this was a major trade route, okay? They didn't, apparently they didn't believe in bypasses. Your major route went right through the city, okay? All right, and remember too, what I said is I suspect that somehow or another here the trade was involved with the Silk Road. All right.
Back on that picture, on the right side picture, in the foreground, you got these huge blocks, that's right. Those are different than what's behind it on the road, is that correct?
Yeah,
So in other words, these huge blocks are not part of the
There,
road.
that's
No.
the ruins, so you got pavers and then you've got columns.
Yeah,
Right.
fault, yeah.
right, give the boy a Google bar, that's exactly right, okay? Okay, this is the arch to the city as you walked in, okay? I imagine that in the day it was a very impressive sight.
Is that what, an aqueduct? Not necessarily, it's not an aqueduct.
No, is it just an entrance?
That's not an
No,
artist.
that's an entrance, that's not an aqueduct, okay? All right, I don't have a good picture of an aqueduct here. That's part of that was part of the Achilles heel of Laodicea, okay?
But getting back to aqueduct, I mean, this is just an architectural feature.
Correct.
The arc is what gives the supporting strength. So whether you're building an aqueduct on top of it, or just, this is just the beam for the structure, you know, for a building, or whatever. It's the same architectural principle of the
Correct.
arc is providing the support for the weight that's on top.
Could you tell whether or not there were gates there or at one time?
No, I have no idea, okay? I have no idea. All I can tell you is that when you walked through this arch, you had passed from non-Laodicea into Laodicea, okay? All right, this is a shot of the main street. You know, once again, you can see on the side there, that was where they had little booths where people would try and sell what they had to. Another shot, okay? And then this right here is something that I've missed up to this point. That's a drainage ditch, okay? Or a drainage main, for want of a better term.
Intention.
Huh?
Are you saying
Yeah.
underneath the rock? Is that what
Yeah.
you're saying?
Absolutely, yeah, underneath the rock. This was, the water would drain through here, and these were not little teeny weeny pipes. These were big pipes that could handle a lot of water, and they'd take it down to wherever it was they were gonna go. They didn't, unlike Ephesus and Miletus, they didn't have a bay to dump it in. But the bottom line is that this gets back to the engineering skills of the Greeks and the Romans. Okay, they were very good at what they did.
Impressive.
Yeah. All right, now this, interestingly enough, this is something that I'm throwing in here. You can see that color there? Okay, now granted, it obviously has been protected by the elements, but this is paint that has lasted approximately 2,000 years.
Paint?
Paint, that is paint. Okay, and you see, here's the thing, this was one of the pictures that I could kick myself for not thinking about it. But when we were in Greece and we were in the Athens Museum, Vicky was showing us the different colors that the Greeks used to basically paint their structures. Okay, and I went, wait a minute, Roy G. Bibbs. Okay, all right. So what that means is that these people observed a rainbow and then figured out what they had to put together to mimic the colors of the rainbow, okay? And as an added bonus, they made something that was strong enough to withstand almost 2,000 years of time. So I have said this to you guys before. We know a lot about these people, but there's a lot about these people that we don't know, okay? And I, based upon this, I think that they knew a lot more about chemistry than we give them credit for.
Well, what's there is actually the three primary colors, red, blue, and yellow.
Okay,
And that's the basis of all colors,
okay.
so.
All
I
right.
mean, there's somebody should be able to know what the constituents are, materials of that, to figure that out, right?
Probably clay.
You gotta know.
Possibly, I'm sure that they can. I mean, if somebody wants to spend the money to do it, if we don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that would be interesting, yeah.
Okay, because I will tell you, what I would be fascinated to know is how they made rope.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, because
Was there any hemp there?
I don't know. You see, that's the problem. You see, that's part of the problem when we study these people. Okay, there's rock. You can expect rock to last 2,000 years. Soft stuff, maybe not so. Okay. See, one of my suspicions is that they were able to make rope that's stronger than we can make today. Okay, and that's one of the reasons why they could lift some of these heavy structures. Because remember, when we get back to geometry, okay, using geometry, your ability to move things stops being limited by the strength of your muscles and bones and starts being limited by the strength of your moving materials. Okay, all right. So that what I'm wondering is did they have better rope than we know of today?
Well,
Okay.
at some point in time, they had to create an arch out of wood or other stone or other materials to be able to fabricate that until they
Correct.
got the whole arch.
Correct, yeah.
completed.
I know.
Okay. All right. Anyway, though, that's just you're just seeing things that show the wealth of Laodicea. Okay. Now remember, I said they had 3 amphitheaters. Okay. This is number 2. Now this was the smallest one. Now partially, I think that this one was reserved for political events. Okay. But I believe Mel mentioned that they used one in the morning and then the other in the afternoon. Okay. Okay. But what is not open to debate is that in a day and age when if you were well-to-do, you were expected to have 1 amphitheater, you in reality, these guys had 3. Okay. All right, this is a temple to Zeus. Okay, and once again, remember how I talked about the columns, how these with the curlicue without the straight lines, I don't remember what style that's called, but that's like putting Welsh show brick on your house, okay? That is a big deal, okay? Sorry. All right, now, what were their sources of wealth, okay? The first one was that they were a major road junction, okay? And additionally, they may very well have been the last main stopping point before you went from the Roman world to somebody else's world. In other words, going from west to east. So that made them, that was kind of like being at the head of the river, okay? All right, they were a noted textile center. They had some type of high quality black wool, okay, which apparently was exported worldwide, okay? See, that's why I think that being on the Silk Road was important, okay? Because we all know that the Chinese had a monopoly on silk, and it was a sign of great wealth in Rome for your wife to have clothing made out of silk. I suspect that the Chinese got something out of it too on the way back, which was probably this high quality black wool, all right? They were a banking center, okay? They had a large quantity of gold, okay? And they were so rich, and I brought this up last week, there was an earthquake, a devastating earthquake in Turkey. Now, depending upon who you talk to, it was either AD 17, AD 70, somewhere in that range. Okay, but the Roman Senate authorized a large amount of money to go to the various cities. Most cities took the money and ran. Laodicea said, "Oh, Rome, thank you so much for this money. That's so sweet. You keep it. We'll be fine without it." Okay? All right. So they felt themselves to be self-sufficient. Okay. They had a medical school which made a special eye salve, okay, which was made from, I guess that's Phygrian. Okay. This is the plant. Okay. They would crush it up in a mortar and pestle, I might add. Okay. All right. Dry it up and mix it with olive oil, and apparently this was a world-renowned eye salve. Okay. Okay, so that ties in with Hierapolis. Okay, so that this whole area obviously had some type of medical industrial complex going on. Now, sorry, let's talk for a minute about what Jesus thought about these guys. Okay, now we're going to skip the water right now. Okay, all right. So somebody, Mark, go ahead and read it for us. Not the Oliver, sorry.
You want to start it? These are the words?
Might as well.
These are the words of the Amen, the faithful and true witness, the ruler of God's creation. I know your deeds, that you are neither cold nor hot. I wish you were either one or the other. So because you are lukewarm, neither hot or cold, I am about to spit you out of my mouth. You say, I am rich, I have acquired wealth and do not need a thing. But you do not realize that you are wretched, pitiful, poor, blind, and naked. I counsel you to buy from me gold refined in the fire, so you can become rich, and white clothes to wear, so you can cover your shameful nakedness, and salve to put on your eyes, so you can see. Those whom I love I rebuke and discipline, so be earnest and repent. Here I am. I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come and eat with that person and they with me. To the one who is victorious, I will give the right to sit with me on my throne, just as I was victorious and sat down with my Father on his throne. Whoever has ears, let them hear what the Spirit says to the churches.
All right, now, would anybody disagree with me if I were to say that these guys' opinion of themselves was not in keeping with the reality of the situation? Okay, anybody have problems with that? All right, now, one of the things that I have alluded to is that I think that all of these things that Jesus talks about in these letters to the different churches are very much upfront, personal, and very easy to understand for these people. Not so much for us sometimes, but this time around, this is, in my mind, crystal clear. Okay, all right, you say, I am rich, I've acquired wealth. Okay, they were bankers. Okay, they had a lot of money. Okay, and do not need a thing, including from Rome. Okay, they were actually able to, they were in a position and had the pride to say to Rome, thanks, but no thanks, we don't need your money. Okay, all right. However, the reality is they were wretched, pitiful, poor, blind, and naked. So basically they were poor and sick. All right.
So, yeah, you did a good job in relating this, but as the Bible continually shows us, it's difficult, especially for the layperson. The Word of God is physical comparison to the spiritual. In other words, we're physically bankrupt because we're spiritually bankrupt. This is what's difficult, you know what I'm saying? But you are not only you're wretched, pitiful, poor, blind, and naked. Well, that's a spiritual implication of their soul.
Correct.
Not their physical life.
Correct. Yeah, I'm sorry. And if I did not make that clear.
No, it's just a commentary.
Okay.
On my part. I'm just having a aha moment here.
Okay.
Sharing it with you.
All right. Well, I had just wait till you get to the next slides, because I had a big one.
Scripture says, you think you're rich, but you're not.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
All right. Now, when people, you're all right. Hang on to this, because this is going to hit home. This was a huge aha moment for me. Okay. All right. So then he says, I cancel you to buy gold for me, refined in the fire. Okay. All right. That was a reference to their banking wealth. Okay. And he's saying, look, you got this physically, but it's all going to perish. Let's talk about, let's talk about the real thing. Okay. Now, do you guys know how they refined gold?
By fire.
That is correct.
Dross and pull the dross off.
Bullseye. Give the boy a Google bar. What happened was that you got this gold ore, okay, and you cooked it under a fire, okay, and then as the dross came up, you would scrape it off, okay. All right, and my understanding is that whoever was doing that did it until he could see a reflection of his face in the gold, and then he stopped. Okay, that was when he had what they considered pure gold. I think in reality it was like 95 to 98% pure. I don't remember the exact numbers, but this was the old-fashioned way that if you were a banker and you wanted to purify your gold, that was how you did it. So that's a reference to the banking. Let me see here. All right, and wear white clothes to wear. I think what he's saying here is, dude, those black clothes that you're so proud of, ditch them. Okay, you want white clothes of righteousness. Okay, I think that is a reference to the weavers. Okay, all right, and salve for your eyes. That's obviously the medical school.
You know what's in that flour? Chemistry?
No, I have no idea. Okay, all right, and I know what's going on. Okay, but to be brutally honest in the matter, this would be something that we would better handle over lunch sometime, because it's maybe if we were talking about the Asclepion, this would be important, okay? But right now it's not, okay? But what I will tell you is that back in 1981, when I graduated from pharmacy school, when I went to the pharmacy, okay, and looked at those drugs, okay, if you take out insulin, 99% of those drugs went back to a plant, okay? Now, biotechnology today has changed that, but even today, if you look at a pharmacy, you will find that the majority of those chemicals are not just novel entities. They're something that has been created by God in a plant, isolated by us, and then made into pills, okay? All right, so yeah, no, I mean, there's no question, I have no question whatsoever that this was an effective product, okay? Now, are we on board that these Laodiceans had a problem, okay? Now, let's talk about water, okay? The Achilles heel of Laodicea was water. They did not have they did not have adequate water. They had some, okay, that mountain that Trina was talking about, okay, most of that water, for some reason or another, Colossae could get to that water. Okay, all right, okay. Laodicea had problems with it. Now okay, so, and this was, I tell you, I am so glad I did this, because this is the latest dig at Laodicea. It's a temple to Trajan, okay? I'd be killing me, but I went, okay? All right. Once again, this was part of the emperor worship. Okay, however, what makes this significant is that this is carved into stone, the Laodicean water law. Okay, it's in, I think it may be in Greek too, but anyway though.
Where's it at? I don't
It's
see
on
it.
that big, you can't see the,
Right there.
yeah,
Okay, but go to the next
the
slide.
big, yeah, it's not quite zoomed in enough.
Right, yeah, where
Yeah,
is
you
it
can
at?
see it.
Chiseled
It's
into
in there,
that.
it's chiseled in there.
Yeah, you can, I mean, Jim, if you come up here, look, you can see that. Okay, but no, it is there, okay, and I think that it was Greek. Okay, now, the Laodicean water law dates from 114 AD, so that's approximately the time of all this going. It involved water from the Karchi mountain, I guess is what you pronounce it. Okay, so they were able to get some water from the sources that you would expect them to, from fall off from a mountain, okay? And it also talked about Trajan's fountain. That was something else that Trajan apparently built, okay? All right, if you polluted the water, in other words, if you peed in the water, okay? All right, if you damaged an active pipe, or if you opened a closed pipe, okay? All right, now people, these are the fines, okay? Now, if you assume that a denarius was approximately, hold that for just one second, was what one working man got for 1 day's work, okay, you're talking about big time mega bucks. Okay, now, would you guys not agree with me that the Romans were serious about leaving this water alone? Okay, all right, so it is obvious that whatever the source, they had a problem with water. Okay, anybody have a problem with that?
This was before the woke agenda.
Huh?
Before the woke.
Yeah, oh yeah. No, these guys were not into PC, okay? All right, now, part of the conversation with Mel, I said, how did they get their water? And her reply was little teeny pebbles. And I went, okay. And then it dawned on me, she was talking about sand. Okay, now people, it is ages old technology that if you take, now I don't think you can do this with black water, but you can do it with, and I don't know about how modern chemicals fit into that, but for years it has been known that if you take water and run it, gray water, and run it through a certain amount of sand, with or without the charcoal, you will have drinkable water that comes out the other side. That's an old technology that is even used today. Okay.
That's what your well, that serves as your well.
Exactly.
Right, if you got a house, I guess you all don't have it. We've been in a well for the last 25 years. That's exactly why you can drink out of the well.
All right. Okay. Correct. Okay. All right. Now. Okay. So what we've got here is we've got a salt called calcium chloride, which has polluted the water. Okay. We've got a way to get whatever extra drinking water that you need. Okay. Now the next thing is we're going to talk about the solubility of this salt, calcium chloride. And I know you guys are all looking at me saying, Graham, where are you going with this? It's going to become very clear in just 1 second. Okay. Now, probably as people who have not been through a large number of chemistry labs, you guys are all thinking that the more you heat up water, the more you can get to dissolve in it. Okay, that would be a natural assumption. Okay, all right, and it's just a simple straight line because you've got all that extra energy. It's able to bumble up the molecules. Okay, right, wrong. That's not the way it works. Every single salt has a different solubility curve. Okay, now the solubility curve of calcium chloride is and under 0, water becomes ice. Above 100 becomes steam. So obviously this is going to be the range. There's a certain amount of solubility of the calcium chloride from about 0 to 20. Okay, so that, would you guys agree with me that if you pull water out of a creek and you measure it and it's 10 degrees centigrade, that's cold water? Okay, all right. And then at about 20 degrees, it
So
hops.
what, about 60-something Fahrenheit?
You can go look it up on the internet, okay?
We don't know.
Okay, all right. It doubles, the solubility over doubles between 20 and 40, okay? All right, and then it stays relatively stable up to where it becomes steam. Okay, now here's the thing. What these people are hearing is Jesus is saying, okay, I mean, these people knew beyond a shadow of a doubt, I'm sorry, is if it was hot, they could make a medicinal bath out of it. If it was cold, nature had already taken care of most of the problem, so it was easy to set up a sand table to get the remaining calcium chloride out. What's in the middle is worthless to them because they can't make a hot bath out of it. It's a pain to get it to make drinkable because you've cut your effectiveness by your sand by 50%. Okay. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, this was an upfront smack in the face where Jesus is saying to them, look, if you were this way, I could work with you. If you were this way, I could work with you. Because you're here down in the middle, you are absolutely useless to me. Okay? Now, the question becomes, what was it about these Laodiceans that made them less than effective for Christ? And I think that the answer was that they were self-satisfied. They were comfortable and they were self-satisfied. That's what I was trying to say with Sardis. Those guys were also well-to-do, okay, and it had bled over into their spiritual life, okay. Now, in their case, Jesus says, I know your works, okay, and you have a reputation for being alive, which means that they were doing something right. Here, he just basically lays into them, okay. That is the spiritual condition of these people.
And this is a Christian church.
Absolutely.
Well, all of them are.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know, what's going through my mind is nothing's changed.
Yeah, really, for sure. Well, but you see, here's the problem, okay? All right. I have come to the conclusion, the more, when you get comfortable, okay, you're on spiritual ground. You're on risky ground spiritually, okay? I mean, that's just like, I have some things have seeped out about the last church that we were at in Roanoke, but there's a couple there, and I don't have their permission, but the guy is a general surgeon at the VA. His wife is some type of specialized dermatology surgeon. Okay, these two people are rich beyond the dreams of avarice, and they still are solidly grounded spiritually and have hearts for God. Okay, and I don't see her very often, but I see him fairly regularly, and I tell him point blank, these guys are in a very good position materially, and God knows that he can trust them with that. If I had nothing but the success in my life that these guys have had, I would not be a nice person. Let's just leave it at that, okay? All right, now, having said that, okay, you guys see where I'm going with this, okay? Now, here is a little tidbit about this church, okay? We don't know what happens to any of these churches, okay? Or this is the last we know. We have no idea how they dealt with what they were told. Now, in Laodicea, we have some hints, okay? All right, because,
Well, you're moving away from the water now, right?
yeah, we're moving,
I have a question.
all right?
Because what I had been taught is that they had one source of, okay, so that, in agreement with you, they didn't have water, so they had to pipe it in. One source was a hot source, but by the time it got there, it was lukewarm. The other source was a cold source, but by the time it got there, it was lukewarm and therefore useless. Is that true that there were these two aqueducts?
I don't know. I have heard different stories. The key here is not exactly where they got their water from, Jim. The key here is whatever they were getting, it wasn't enough. Okay? I mean, I do know that they've got water mains that are caked with limestone. I don't know, but the bottom line is that the evidence is whatever they were getting from what we would consider to be the normal sources was not enough to meet their needs. That's the best I can do, okay? All right, now, it is my contention that the Laodiceans smelled the coffee and woke up, okay? Because, and Trina and I, when we were interacting about the Byzantines, this is a church that was found in Laodicea. That's part of the dig there, okay? Now, it is a Byzantine church, okay? And it does show some signs of wealth. Let me see here. Okay, that's the floor, the remnants of the floor, okay? Probably their assembly hall. Oh, and yeah, there we go. Some temple in the background. Nice to look at, okay? Okay. All right, here's a shot of the floor. It's pretty well preserved, and I hope, no, that's not it.
Relative to the pictures you showed us, where is this in Laodicea?
Yes, it is. It is in Laodicea proper, okay? All right, and remember, they did not have this building when these words were penned to them.
Right, but was it close to Main Street?
It
You
was,
don't know.
it was,
Yeah.
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 And you see the tennis shoes there?
Mhm.
We were standing on a plexiglass elevated floor and looking down part of it. And that happened in Ephesus too,
Yeah.
where they don't allow you to walk on what they've uncovered down there. So we were, what, 10, 12 feet from the floor, part of it,
Yeah.
and part of
And
it.
some of it was under the plexiglass.
Yeah.
Correct.
Because it was a big area.
Yeah, it was a big area. Now, okay, and I've got, follow me with this, all right? Okay, all right, that was where the elders sat,
Yeah,
okay? All right.
of that floor, yeah.
Yeah, there's another.
And the
floor.
mosaicists, there was like famous mosaicists of the day, people who could put these pieces together for these floors. One of the most famous ones was from Miletus. So I think that was also a source of pride. It was kind of like, today if you have these expensive Persian carpets or whatever, the floors were incredibly elaborate and they've lasted, largely, but they are stunning.
Okay, let me see here. Yes, there we go. That's the one. Okay, that's, all right. Trina, you got anything to add to this one?
Well, I think when we get into the Byzantine era, and Jim and I were talking this, I think at one time at lunch there. The Byzantine, I always just thought of Byzantine and Catholic Church.
Yes.
Look at that art, it's the traditional looking Catholic. And we'll get into this, but they've used the sign of the cross a lot. So you'll see.
Like right there?
Yeah, right there. You'll see those Latin crosses, and there are different types of these crosses. And there we are still on that floor, but we'll get into this. I felt, well, me, I can speak for me, but really ignorant about what all of that was about. How Christianity ruled that part of the world for 1,000 years.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get into that in the next couple weeks.
Sure. Okay. All right. Okay, and as far as I can tell, this is where they did communion. Okay. That's a baptistry.
Shape of the cross again. And it's kind of sad. We grew up in Presbyterian church, and I clearly remember as a child seeing the altar cloth with the symbols of the, the cross and the circle, doing crafts in vacation Bible school that had to do with symbols of the church. And then now, like, it seems like it's like eliminated, right? Because people, I don't know if they thought you're worshiping, but these things are church history.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a shame some of this was thrown out.
Well, what can you say?
It went with the hymns.
Yeah,
It
you're
went
right.
with the hymns.
You're right.
Right, and it's really a shame.
All right, getting back to Laodicea, okay? This church was significant enough that they had a council there in 363 to 364, and they dealt with some significant issues, okay? So whatever these people did, they had enough cachet where other churches looked to them as essentially a meeting place to thresh out. And these were not doctrinal issues per se, but they were things like, outlawing the keeping of the Sabbath. Okay, they say basically our day of rest is Sunday, not Saturday. Another one, I love that, the second one, enforcing wise behavior of clerics. One of them I read said, bishops don't go into taverns, okay? Stuff like that, okay? But for whatever reason, these guys had the cachet where it is my suspicion that these guys probably got their act together and probably came from a very low place spiritually to a relatively high place spiritually, okay?
Well, that might be true, but I don't think that this is evidence of it, because this was a meeting place, and they could have still been bad spiritually, but because they're on this crossroads and stuff, it's a good meeting place.
You and I have a basic disagreement about that, okay? We're just gonna have to agree to disagree on that. My point is that somewhere along the line, they had enough of a cachet, they had gotten their act together enough where they were able to do that.
It was a crossroads of where all this stuff got regulated amongst the population.
Right.
One of them.
Okay.
Crossing the road.
Well, and I will say probably having a nice big church to meet into probably would help. Okay, couple of little odds and ends here, okay? All right, that's me standing on a Roman road, okay? Now, I have stated several times, and we all understand that the Greeks and the Romans, with what they had to work with, now they haven't built a space, they never built a space station, but with what they had to work with, they did a fantastic job. All right, this was me standing on a Roman road. Those roads, okay, I have a story. In World War I, the first use of massed tanks in the history of mankind was at the Battle of Cambrai, I think in 1918, okay? It resulted in a tremendous, unexpected, almost complete breakdown of the German army, okay? All right, the tanks were unsupported. When word got back to the high command, that basically words to the effect of, we've got a winning pony here, we need to pony up some more money, okay? They started sending infantry down, okay? The infantry came on roads that were built by the Romans, okay? So what that means is that these people built structures that were so well built that they could last for 2,000 years almost, and then stand up to modern military traffic for a little while, okay? That's extremely impressive to me. Oh, you guys remember when I told you about the little girl who would reach one way and get the alcohol?
Coffee.
Okay, all right.
That was in our hotel.
Yeah, this was in our hotel. Okay, that's the liquor, and there's the cappuccino maker right there. Okay, all right. Now, the next thing is to show you a difference in the mindset is, you guys all know for cigarettes, the Surgeons General, where they say, smoking will cause this, that, and the other. And you got about a paragraph that they put in teeny weeny font. Oops, there we go. That's the Turkish.
The duty, you couldn't miss this, you walked in the duty-free shop, those black and white labels were like.
Smoking kills, okay, all right.
Let's just get to the point.
Okay, all right, yeah, I know, okay, and this is just a shot of the latest tourist trap in the Middle East, okay?
Yeah, well, we're gonna get to this more. This is an area of Turkey called Cappadocia or Cappadocia, depending on how you say it. And you don't have more pictures, do you?
No, ma'am, I
Okay,
don't.
all right, we'll be showing more pictures. There are these unusual rock formations there. And the balloons are so that you can go up and look down on them. And our group, the day that our group was, if you wanted to go on the balloon visit, it was too windy. So, I mean, it was like really everybody, so we were leaving here to go to the airport, and everybody on the bus was crying because we're looking over seeing hundreds of balloons lift off. But that's where, through those rock formations, there were these Gorim rock churches, and that's where we literally went through caves that were, the walls were just, like I said, the Sistine Chapel with all this
Yeah.
Byzantine art.
Yeah.
And so, and then there were, we went underground to these other rock cities.
Yeah.
And they weren't really sure, they think people lived down there to
Well,
hide.
there's
from-
no question, they
Yeah.
lived in fear of somebody.
Yeah, and so you're down in these, literally going through little tunnels.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we will show more of this region, and we're gonna try to also to bring it together, sort of what we did. And again, sources, because for us, it was just like,
Yeah.
if we felt like we knew nothing. I mean, we signed up for the tour last December. The tour was April, so we spent all winter, every night, watching videos to prepare
Yeah.
online, everything we could find. And we mainly were looking at for the churches.
Right.
Then we realized, wait a minute, what do we know about even Greek culture? 'Cause
Right.
like Homer was like 1,000 years before the era that we saw. And in keeping it in your head, it's like,
You know, it reminds me, when my grandfather went to seminary, and other people prior to the 21st century. But prior to going to seminary, you were a history major.
Really?
wow,
Okay,
wow, yeah. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah.
When you see it, you're like, you just don't know.
yeah, I am glad that we did what we did, but I'm gonna tell you right now, what we did was not enough,
It's crazy.
okay?
Can you go back to the map? I want to show them
Sure,
one
boss.
thing that Dr. Price
Yes, dear.
had pointed out.
The rocks, I'm assuming were limestone.
We'll
I
look
think
it
so.
up. Well, I guess they are. We'll look at, I mean.
It was some type of soft rock, I do
And
remember
it's,
that.
part of it is, I guess, well, I mean, the structures are shocking. I mean, what do they call them? The
Probably-
fairy towers? I think part of it's volcanic. It was just like otherworldly,
Yeah,
Probably
really
like-
otherworldly.
Like
Yeah.
Sedona would be for us.
okay.
Do I?
Yeah,
Like Sedona in Arizona.
Maybe,
Yeah, kinda,
maybe.
sorta, yeah, except I think in those places, it's like sandstone.
Okay,
I'm not
that's
sure.
all right.
It's a little
Is that
less,
what you
yeah.
want to do?
Okay, yeah, we'll have a better map next time. This is what's in, do you have, we don't, okay, this is Turkey, obviously. Dr. Price pointed out while we were on the tour, we were in Western Turkey.
Yeah.
Greece and Western Turkey. Eastern Turkey, at the other, and we'll bring a better map, is where Mount Ararat is, okay? Somewhere in that upper right quadrant in Turkey, Eastern Turkey, is Göbekli Tepe. This is a mound that they have uncovered, and archaeologists have determined, secular archaeologists have determined, this is the oldest settlement known on Earth. Well, a couple hundred miles beyond there is Mount Ararat. So Dr. Price theorizes that when the ark landed on Mount Ararat, the animals, of course, and the people started going down the mountain. So it likely is, he thinks it probably is, and we'll show pictures of that. We did not go to Eastern Turkey, okay, and I asked Dr. Price about it, he said, several years ago, I don't know how long now, but he tried to get an Eastern Turkey tour together, because you will see a lot more sites, but that eastern part of Turkey is much more like radicalized. There's a lot more Muslim, Islam. Plus, he said all the sites that you might want to see are like off the beaten path, so you would have to hike or take like 4-wheel drive vehicles to get to even see these sites. So we'll bring a better map next time to kind of show that. But it's fascinating when you look at it in Christian terms of where the people came down from the ark and then would have scattered.
Yeah.
And this Göbekli Tepe, they have these round enclosures in the ground, and we'll bring pictures, and they have animals carved on these
You
enclosures.
didn't go there.
We did
No,
not
we
know,
did
we didn't
not.
go to Eastern Turkey.
Yeah.
And that's when I asked Dr. Price, well, are you gonna go there? Or he said, well, they tried, but no, because it's, I think.
Nobody
you could-
wanted to go.
Well,
Yeah.
it's rustic, much more rustic and dangerous, so.
And had to bring your own gun.
Yeah, well, yeah, and, yeah, I think they do to that.
Do you have any estimate or idea how far it'd be from Babylon to? that little
No,
spot
but
you're
yeah,
talking
we'll
about?
look at we'll look at a map, but those enclosures, and it's very, it looks so, ancient art looks so stylized, because it was simple. But these statues are all kind of standing there with these same,
Square.
yeah, and their hands are sort of in the same, but these animals, they
Yeah.
figured that these, like, animals were kept in these pens. And it actually makes sense when you think about all those animals coming off the ark, those early Noah's sons.
Well, there were only 2 of them. 2.
Well, right, but you still had, they were breeding,
Yeah.
But everybody was coming off that mountain, and you really sort of don't think about, okay, and we know they split, but somebody settled. And it is, and you can get to that place.
Is the Tigris and Euphrates, is that in Turkey?
No, well, it may be, it may be, but if it is, it's in southern
We're
Turkey.
getting Mark's thing, which also links to the Tigris and Euphrates. This is far north.
Yeah.
This is where.
Yeah. So anyway, it was like, you really start to put it together and you're like, wow, the evidence, and no wonder, Dr. Price talks about only like part of 1% of all the ruins that have been uncovered.
Right.
And it's like, it's all under there.